Welcome, ladies. I am so glad you are here again at another episode of Becoming Light. This week, it's just me sharing with you. And you know what? I wanted to talk about something that has been kind of on my mind a lot lately. This feeling that everything that we were doing before has now completely fallen off. And it just feels like, oh my God, am I failing at this? Or, what's going on? So I wanted to address this. Okay. So if you're listening to this right now and you're feeling frustrated, maybe you're frustrated with your body, your energy is low, or the fact that things that, you used to do all the time are just not working anymore. I want you to hear this before we go any further. Okay. You are not failing. Force and forcing your body into certain situations, it's just not working. It's just stopped. Okay. And I know that sentence might, stir something up. It might maybe give you a sense of relief. Maybe it's confusing you because you're like, all my life I've been told this is how I need to do things. And now these things are no longer working. You may even be feeling grief and sadness over, that loss of connection with the body in the way that you used to know. So, I want you to know that that's all normal because, for so long, force is what we were taught to rely on, right? We were told try harder, be stricter, be more motivated, be more disciplined, push through, don't listen to that achy muscle. And for a while, it does work. I will say, like in your 20s and 30s, it definitely maybe works for you. And then all of a sudden, it doesn't work, right? I remember the moment when I realized that something had shifted. I was doing all the right things. I've spoken to you guys before about how I was literally doing all the right things according to what the fitness industry and, the wellness industry kind of told us to do. I was eating well, I was moving my body, I was doing intense workouts 6 days a week. I was showing up at my basement for my workouts 4:30, 5 o'clock every single morning, whether I was completely exhausted or not. And I was just trying to be consistent and keep myself motivated. And yet all of a sudden my body became heavy. Everything felt heavy. My energy just became so unpredictable. My motivation, quote unquote, we're going to talk about that this month too, motivation. My motivation just felt so unreliable, right? I couldn't do it some days. I just had no desire to show up for myself. But the hardest part wasn't the physical changes. They were hard to look at, and I was really unsure what was happening with my body because it is shocking when you gain 40 pounds in like 4 weeks, which I did. My body ballooned. A lot of it was swelling and water weight, but I didn't know what was happening. It was alarming. And I started to kind of beat myself up. I was telling myself the stories, and I remember thinking, like, why can't you just get your shit together? Like, why does this feel so hard right now? What is wrong with you? And I may not have really said those things out loud at first, but I was very quiet and I was internally battling with them. And I honestly think that that's where a lot of the damage comes from is when we're in our own heads, beating ourselves up over these things and just feeling so alone. And now I know that I'm not alone in this, that there's so many other women that are, you know, in that phase that I was in a couple years ago. And that's why I do talk about my story and I do share my story because I think it is so vitally important to do that, right? And I think we get to the point where there's like, okay, no one is preparing us for for this stuff. Midlife shows up and then we just feel so different. We feel so completely different than who we thought we were. And the thing is, midlife isn't a motivation problem. Okay, it is not. It's not because you're not motivated. And I hate motivation. I think that's like a cop out. Motivation doesn't exist in my programs. And trust me, we don't lean on that. We lean on consistency and keeping promises to ourselves. But midlife, there's this nervous system conversation that needs to happen. We need to start to connect to our nervous system in this phase because, you know, in our 20s and like in our 30s, I think our bodies completely tolerate stress differently. We can skip the meals. We can push through the exhaustion. We can ignore the emotional weight going up and down. And, your body just seems to kind of go along with it. Maybe because it hasn't, had that point, that breaking point yet, but you you can carry more, I think, when you're in your 20s and 30s. You can carry more of the responsibility, the emotional labor, and then when you get into midlife, then all of a sudden you are carrying way more responsibility than your body can cope with. You're emotionally frustrated and exhausted. You have all these extra lived experiences that are living in your tissues and in your body, and more stress just then gets stored in the body. And that is a big thing to look at. What are we carrying underneath that weight? And that is something we really dig into in the group coaching program, is what is going on underneath the weight, right? What are we really feeling underneath this? And at this point, we realize that our nervous system has become really smart. It's almost outsmarting all of us here. And it's no longer willing to be bullied into submission anymore, right? Our nervous system is like, screw this noise. We are done. And so that's when the forcing everything turns against us. It definitely turned against me. And there was a period where I really doubled down. I kind of went the opposite way of where I should have went for quite a while. I thought, fine, if, what I'm doing now isn't working, I'm just gonna be more disciplined. Right? Like, I laugh now, but in the time I thought, okay, so if I've gained all this weight, if I'm feeling this exhausted and tired, it must be because I'm not working out enough. It must be because I need to really reduce my calories even more. I need to be extremely more diligent with my food, right? So I tightened things up, really got them really tight in, dialed in. And I pushed my workouts really hard, and I controlled my food even more closely. I knew every micronutrient that I was eating and exactly how many calories, macros, micros, you name it, I knew what was in it. And then I got to the point where instead of seeing progress, I was more exhausted. I had way more inflammation in my body. I gained even more inflammation weight, more emotional distance from myself, from others. I just felt like I couldn't bear to face the world. And my body didn't respond, by cooperating with me. She responded by saying, "Good Lord, woman, what are you doing? I need to protect you. What are we doing to ourselves?" And that's when I finally realized something had changed. Well, everything had changed. And when I realized this one simple thing, I honestly, I completely changed my approach to how I was doing things, to how I was putting clients through things. I completely changed everything. I realized that my body wasn't resisting me. It was responding to how safe, how unsafe it was feeling under all this extra pressure that I was putting on it, right? Listen to that. It wasn't that my body was resisting me or fighting me or like just being stubborn and wouldn't do what I wanted it to do. It was responding to how unsafe it felt under the insane amount of pressure that I was putting on it. My body was literally like in this state of mind that we were being chased down by saber-tooth tigers or something insanely crazy, and we need to put on as much belly weight as we possibly can to protect our organs. That's literally what I had done to my body by that point. And I see it in so many women. I see it in my group coaching. I see it, I've had private conversations in my group coaching, and the women have talked to me about this. I've had conversations with women who are just like, I just don't know what to do. I'm taking like 500 billion supplements and nothing's working. And I'm throwing everything at my body and nothing's working. And it's just, to me it's so crazy, right? So we have these conversations and we dig into where is your body? Are you feeling safe? Does your body actually feel safe enough to release the weight? And so that's when we want to start to we reframe things, right? Because we want to look at what force is. And force doesn't always look aggressive. Sometimes it looks like I'm ignoring my hunger pains because I am keeping in a caloric deficit of way too many, right? It might look like showing up for a workout when you're so completely depleted that you could potentially just hurt yourself in that workout. That could potentially, when you're that tired and exhausted and you're showing up for a type of workout that's like going to be heavy lifting, that's probably not the best thing to do, right? And, then we listen to how we talk to ourselves and we realize that that narrative that when we're in that forcing, that pushing, that overdoing, man, that narrative to ourselves is harsh. I don't know a single woman who would talk to her bestie that way, but she's here talking to herself that way. And, then we add in that you only get to rest when you've done everything you've needed, and it's a reward for being good, right? So, force in any approach is going to tell your body that you're not okay as you are. We don't love you the way you are. You're not good enough. You're not safe. You're just not, right? And so when we get to midlife and our nervous systems are overloaded and everything is overloaded, the midlife body does not respond to that message anymore. It's like, no thanks. So we're going to shut down, right? How many of you have just, who here has experienced that like midlife exhaustion that hits you like a freight train and you literally cannot keep your eyes open? I know I have. It's just the weirdest sensation. And the body then it's going to shut down. The body says, no, we're holding on to this. We need to protect ourselves. I don't know, especially if you're trying to starve yourself into submission, right? If you're trying to starve that body into losing weight, that body is going to hold on to every single calorie you give it because it is unsure if you're going to feed it again. So, this shift for me didn't come immediately in the form of this new plan. It came for me as a question. I found myself asking so many questions. I found that I was feeling this shift away from how do I fix myself to asking myself, what do I need so that I can start to feel safe? What does my body want today so she can show up with her highest and greatest amount of energy, that she can show up for herself fully? How do I show up for you? How do you show up for me? Right? Like this is what our bodies are asking us. So that questioning started to soften everything for me. I started to realize that I needed to create a space of safety for my body if I wanted to progress forward with any sort of weight loss. Like if I wanted to reduce the sudden weight gain and the aches and the pains and the fatigue and all these things that were smacking me like a freight train, I realized I had to create safety. And I also realized that as I'm working with women in their midlife phase, that they are responding the same way I was responding. So I needed to find a way that we could all move forward with this and, feel good, feel great, actually, feel more energy than we've ever felt, right? So I started to ask questions like, what does safety look like? And I realized that eating regularly, making sure your body is fed, nourished, well loved instead of restricting meant safety. I noticed that providing gentle movement before going into these intense punishing workouts meant the body felt safe. Now, I do want to clarify something. We do need to lift weights as women. We need to provide that resistance to the body. But what's going to happen when you first start into this, okay? If you are in the space I was in, that was Like I was done. I was completely done. I had completely shut down my nervous system, my adrenals, everything. Going and doing an intense workout may cause you to feel even worse than you do. So with my program, this is something that we really look at is building those little, we step it up, right? Let's do the walk, see how that feels. Walking is the most beneficial thing for you. I'm not going to lie. So that's where the moving, it's so important to start small and to listen and then to build. And then I started letting my body set the pace, right? And one of the things, I had this amazing conversation with a fellow health coach, and she brought up this point that I was like, ding, 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 that's amazing. So let's say you're on a plan where you need to get in your 20 workouts a month, okay? Let's say when you're on your period or when your cycle is kind of going haywire, maybe there's a week where you can only do two of the workouts, or maybe you can only do one. But the week before and after that, you can do more. So when you look at the end of the month, you got your 20 workouts in, but you also were able to honor and listen to your body, right? And I love that concept. And it is about that. It's about listening to what you need instead of commanding that your body do as it's told, right? And slowly, not dramatically, like it is a slow roll, but things begin to change. And it's not because you're forcing them. It's because your body's like, yes, I trust what she's doing here. I see that she's showing up. She's telling me she's going to show up for me. And guess what? She did. She showed up for me. She made that micro promise that I am worth going for that 10-minute walk every day. And guess what? She showed up and did it, right? So I want you to know, okay, like if you're sitting here listening to this and you're thinking, I don't want to give up. I don't want to just let myself go. I want to be very, very clear, okay? This isn't about doing less forever. It's about doing things differently. Midlife support is going to ask you for or your midlife body is going to ask you for support instead of pressure, okay? The consistency instead of intensity. That's where we talk really deep about the fact that motivation is absolute bullshit because you're not going to feel motivated every single day. There's just no way. It's not going to happen. And if you do feel motivated every single day, I want to know what drugs you're on. Okay? It's about the consistency. It's about saying to yourself, I'm going to show up, and then you do. And it's about having compassion for what you are going through instead of trying to control and manipulate what you are going through. And that's not weakness. That is about taking leadership of your own physical body, right? And, I'm not going to lie. There is a process of grieving here, and there definitely was for me. I had so much grief and I had to grieve and release the body that I had, the things that I was able to do before this all hit me. And there was this space where I had to remember, right? And sometimes you do miss that, you look back and you think, "Oh man, I was so hard on that body. I was so hard on myself." But yet I was, I could do so many more things or whatever it is. And, we don't talk about that enough. We're allowed to grieve the version of you that didn't have to think this hard about rest, energy, and hormones. Like honoring that grief is also a part of becoming light. Okay. So this month, I'm going to be talking a lot about what it really means to become light. Not just our physical beings, but our emotional, our mental, and our energetic beings. Because weight is not just something that our body is carrying, right? We are carrying expectations. We carry the pressure of the world. We carry old narratives about what we're supposed to be. And none of that is going to release under the force of telling it to go away. Okay. So if today all you take from this episode is that you're not failing, your body isn't broken, and nothing has gone quote unquote wrong, Okay? You're just in a new chapter, one that requires a completely different relationship with yourself than many of us have been conditioned to allow. And we'll talk about that together. We're going to walk through this together. We're going to be gentle today, right? Your body is listening. So I want you today, this is your homework. If you're listening to this, I want you to say something really nice about your body right now. Okay? I want you to say something beautiful about yourself right now. And if you feel brave, tag me in a post, comment, share, right? This message needs to get out to so many women. So if this has resonated with you, if this little chat today has resonated with you, please do me a favor. Make sure to like and subscribe on to the channel that you're watching or listening to this through. Please make sure to post this on social media and tag all your friends that you think need to hear this story, that you feel will resonate with knowing that they are not alone in this space. Okay? So until next time, go say something nice to yourself, and we will see you here next week.